He's one of the most powerful and flamboyant investors in the Middle East, one who rarely gives interviews, but we caught up with him on a recent visit to Toronto.
Saudi Prince Alwaleed bin Talal has been called the Warren Buffett of the Middle East. He owns sizable stakes in companies such as Citigroup, News Corp and Four Seasons Hotels, and as CEO and 95% owner of Kingdom Holding Company, was an early investor in Twitter, some $300 million invested in the social media giant. Well connected at home, including a close bond to his cousin, the King of Saudi Arabia, and educated abroad, Prince Alwaleed's power straddles East and West, and he's earned a reputation as an advocate for reform in the Middle East. He's also earned a reputation for a keen interest in his own net worth, taking on Forbes magazine for understating his wealth and ranking on its list of richest people. But whatever his net worth, his influence is strong, with business associates who range from former Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak and former Libyan ruler Muammar Gaddafi to Bill Gates and Rupert Murdoch. When we spoke, I asked if reform is moving more slowly than he'd like in Saudi Arabia.
King Abdullah is very much a reformer, no doubt about that. But clearly, I believe that the reform process has to be accelerated quite a bit more to really be in parallel path with what's happening in the whole world. So yes, I believe that we are on the right track in Saudi Arabia, but the process and has to be expedited and has to be accelerated a lot faster to really for example, incorporate the ladies in the workforce, in the community in a more cohesive manner.
In fact, countries that have sort of flirted with reform, and we've seen, I guess Egypt is probably the best example, have seen a kind of a retrenchment. Do you worry about a rise of radical Islam, a rise of kind of fanaticism in the countries in your neighborhood?
Look, fanaticism and radical Islam is available. Like we can see it and witness that, from Indonesia going to Pakistan, Afghanistan, to Iraq, to our region, even to North Africa. So really, we see that even London has some radical Islam. Our job and duty really is to really to encourage moderate Muslims to come out publicly and advocate their cause. And our objective really is to try not to have those minority of our religion kidnap or hijack our religion and have us all stigmatized by this wrong impression, frankly speaking.
One of the difficulties, you could argue, is while Saudi Arabia has been a strong and good ally to the United States, it's a complicated relationship because of your role in the region, the country's role in the region. Is the United States making it difficult to be pro-American these days?
Well, I think the United States is making it difficult for its friends to be as its allies, because you see, not only Saudi Arabia has issues with the foreign policy of the United States. We see in Europe, for example, Mrs. Merkel is not very happy with what's going on by tapping her phone. We see the President of Brazil cancelling her official visit to the United States. So really, these are three continents that already are upset with the policy of the United States, and I only give you some examples. So I think it's about time for the United States to have a cohesive, a coherent, and a very well-defined policy towards the whole world. Look, the United States is down but not out, and they will lead the world for a long time to come. So it's very important to have a strategy and a vision, and objective, whereby the whole world will follow the United States. But unfortunately right now, with what's happening in the United States internally, with the budget deficit situation, with the debt issue, with the Obamacare, with the poverty level, which now is around 15%, which is, around 49 million people in the United States are below poverty level. So all these things really, are impacting the image and the presence of the United States internationally. And there's a vacuum right now because there's a lot of thought that China is going to come, India is going to come. They're way behind. China and India, way behind. They are decades, not years, behind the United States in taking that role. So the United States have to really, get its act in order.
Are you supportive of China? Do you invest there? Are you friendly with the senior officials there?
Oh, definitely. We have very good relation with China. We invested in the Bank of China when public. Our hotel brands, Four Seasons, Fairmont, they are going to have around 30 hotels in the next 2-3 years there. We are investor in the second biggest internet company in China called 360. So yes, we have a lot of strong presence there. Citibank is there, News Corp is there. So we are there through many angles, through directly and indirectly, in the banking industry, real estate, hotels, and technology.
In the shifting kind of global powers, one of the things that may change in your region is oil. Your country is still very dependent on oil. America will become a net exporter of oil before too long, we're told. How will that change the dynamic, and is Saudi Arabia prepared for it?
That's a very good question, because I'm being very vocal and went public with my views on that subject, whereby Saudi Arabia still is 92%, its budget depends on oil. And even if the price of oil is still going to be maintained at where it is right now, even without the shale oil being found and produced, there's no country that should be dependent on oil that much. Having said that, now with the shale oil production increasing, with the United States being very much oil dependent and also being on the verge of being net oil exporter, no doubt that the dynamics of the relationship between Saudi Arabia is at risk of being changed. So it's very important for us, Saudi Arabia, to lessen our reliance on oil, number one. And number two is also to have our relation improve with the United States further, because right now there's a lot of tension at the political level, let alone the economic level, as I answered the previous question. What
is the thing you worry most about in the world in terms of your investments, but also your country, your family? Does something worry you more than anything else? Well, it's not a matter of worry or concern. It is, all investors, all businessmen, and everybody would like to get stability, tranquility, and peace to prevail in the whole world. Now, inevitably, that this may not be the case. So our job and duty is really to minimize the impact of any act of terrorism, any natural problem that may happen, like it happened in the Philippines right now. So the world is very dynamic, and but we only hope that such natural disasters or such terrorist acts do not really impact the tranquility and the civility of the world we're living in.
Billionaire Saudi investor Prince Alwaleed bin Talal began his business career in 1979 upon graduating from Silicon Valley's Menlo College. He calls himself a self-made man who started with a loan of just $30,000 from his dad, a senior member of the Saudi royal family. In the second part of my interview with His Royal Highness, I began by asking him to describe his investment style.
Kingdom Holding is a Saudi-based company, and it's very diversified, and it's involved in at least 13 industries that encompasses Saudi Arabia, the Middle East, and the world. Our investment philosophy is to invest in companies that are unique in their fields. The entry barrier is very high for other competitors to get into, and to enter at a time where the return investment and IRR is going to be beneficial to our shareholders.
You have, as you say, diversified investments. One of your most famous and successful was an early investment in Citigroup, an investment that, of course, you stayed with faithfully. I wonder about your perspective on what happened to that bank, but in the context of the credit crisis. Were you shocked that it was allowed to happen, that the management of that bank and others let that happen?
Well, you're talking about the crisis of 2008, obviously. Clearly, at that time, the regulations were very loose, and clearly Citigroup was one of the main banks that was impacted negatively. And certain banks went bankrupt also, as you know. But having said that, clearly after its capitalization, Citigroup is very much on track right now, really, to benefit its shareholders. And if you analyze in depth the last 2 quarters of Citibank's results, they were really very good, especially the quarter before this quarter, whereby they beat the street estimates, and the market reacted very favorably to that share price. And as a result of that, it was upgraded to several notches by many of the rating agencies.
Are you a believer in America's prospects today, that it has solved the issues that created the credit crisis, that its economy will recover strongly? Are you investing there strongly now?
Well, the banks are pretty well capitalized. All the big banks, the Wells Fargo's of the world and the JP Morgans, the Citigroups and the Bank of Americas. These are the four main banks, remaining four banks, if I can use the term, in the United States. But still, on the regulatory side, there are still very much uncertainty. You've seen that the Volcker rule has been going on for 4 years now without any conclusive results. The Basel rules also not being finalized completely. So there are still a lot of uncertainties. So I think it's important for the regulators to get their house in order and to begin putting those rules in action so the banks know exactly which direction to move, because right now many of their investment ideas or concepts are not being implemented or executed because of worry that certain new banking rules that may come may impact their capital ratios, which may impact them negatively. Having said that, I believe that the banks are a step ahead now of the regulators by being ultra-conservative in their approach.
On the other hand, we hear about scandal after scandal, LIBOR, price fixing in various parts of the market. You are obviously pro-capitalism, but does it unnerve you? Does it make you feel as though we're not quite the regulators aren't quite getting it right because there seems to be so much wrongdoing going on?
No doubt that the laissez-faire approach of capitalism that prevailed in the decade or 2 decades before the market crisis in the banking industry 2008 really is gone completely, because the regulators were too loose, the banks became too greedy, and they very much became oriented toward the benefits of its directors and management rather than of shareholders. So all these, I can only say that I hope these lessons have been learned by the banks and by the regulators, and to get their house in order. So, but from my interaction with many of these bankers, I believe that they learned it the hard way. Yes. And all the scandals you see right now are the residual of those excesses that took place in the 1990s, late 1990s and early 2000s.
You are diversified, as you say. Is there a sector that you're particularly interested in now that you're looking at that you may not be in yet, but that you're interested in?
No, really. We have 13 industries that we invest in, and they all go parallel, frankly speaking. We all try to nurture them and to grow them. Like when, for example, I came now to Toronto here, I visited the Four Seasons, which we own jointly with Bill Gates. And we visit also the Fairmont brand, which we jointly own with our Qatari partners, the Qatari government. And now we have this Toronto hotel here, the Four Seasons. So no, all our investments go parallel, and we try to nurture and to grow all those investment parallel. Clearly, also parallel to that, we also look at new opportunities, such as the latest Twitter investment, which we invested in some time ago, and it just went public right now. But there are other investments very much scattered globally.
And you're reported to have made a great deal on that Twitter investment. I think 600 million is the number that I've seen. I've also seen reports, as I'm sure you have, that you sometimes inflate the value of Kingdom Holdings to make it look more successful than it is, sometimes to get on certain lists or rankings. How do you respond to those kinds of claims?
I think now you are referring to the Forbes situation.
Yes, I am.
This for sure, this all innuendo, heresy, and untruthful facts is wrong. Saudi Arabia is a very much regulated country, and our stock market now is very much open, like the United States and Canada and Europe. And all this talk from Forbes really is baseless at all, and it's not correct. And the stock market in Saudi Arabia is very much regulated like in Canada and United States.
So it would be impossible to do what they're suggesting.
It's not impossible. It's not on the. For a company like us, this is not even on our radar screen to think of such things that or such allegations that were said by Forbes.
Does it matter to you where you fall on a list of global billionaires?
This is really very academic, frankly speaking, and really, what I care about is really to create value to my shareholders, and clearly I'm one of these shareholders, and I push very hardly to create value for our shareholders, and most of them are Saudi-based right now. And no, really, frankly speaking, where you fit in the rank, this really is very academic, really.